Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 861, Garry and Richard here, and I'm back from holiday, and we've got lots to talk about. We've got builds of Windows 11 with changes to the start menu. We'll be talking about Windows update issues, smart home issues, tracking things with Bluetooth tags, that kind of thing, and lots more. So let's get straight to Richard and Garry. Garry, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome back.
Yes, back in the UK. For a very nice holiday. Although I believe you had hotter weather than I did, but it's a bit different. I was sat by the pool, so I wasn't too bothered about the heat, whereas you guys were all trying to work.
Yeah, 46.5 in my garden at one point.
Blimey, yeah. I think my greenhouse got to 47 degrees with the windows and doors are open and everything else. So I could track that remotely, of course.
That's hot, isn't it? I mean, admittedly, greenhouses are supposed to get hot, but
not that hot. So it's good to be back. I'm also glad to be back on my Surface Duo 2. We can.
Can't hear you. I love to.
We can hear you.
We can still hear you.
We can hear you complaining.
It's been 3 years. I still can't wear the limit. Right, let's try that.
We can hear you nice and clear.
I can hear you now. There we go.
Hey, we could hear you all along.
Grumbling away to myself, going.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll leave that in, shall we, Ian?
Yes, I'll leave that bit in for you.
It can be outtakes. I think my Teams is well documented, so it's a shock to anybody.
Yeah.
I hate Teams so much.
Well, it's good to hear you back, Richard. Good to have you back on the show. Well, I'm glad to be back so I can hear you. I enjoyed last week's show. It was good being a listener for a change.
Oh no.
We had at least one listener then, Richard. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed that. So I was just about to tell Garry. I did switch phones I took the Samsung Galaxy Note because it's waterproof. And I thought probably a bit more robust than the Duo. So I left my Duo here. I switched back as soon as I got home though, because I missed the dual screens and actually prefer the Duo overall. Although Samsung's have some nice little bits in Android, like the some of their apps are quite well developed now, I think. So it's a slightly more mature platform, I think, on Samsung than it is on the Microsoft. But there was nothing really that I was missing, and of course everything syncs up with OneDrive, so I was quite happy with that. One thing I did quite enjoyed playing with these Galaxy SmartTags. Now, what I only just realised actually when I switched phones back is they only work with Samsung Galaxy phones. So you can't pair, even though the Bluetooth, you can't pair them up with the Surface Duo because it won't work. It says you need the Samsung version 26. So so if you've got a other Android phone other than Samsung, you're out of luck with those. But I did find them quite useful. They're like the usual tags. I think they're like very similar to the Apple ones, although I've never actually used those. But Bluetooth. Replaceable batteries as well, like Tile and some other ones I've had in the past. Do those watch batteries, the CR78 type?
Big
so I put them in my suitcases, and actually I could track them quite well because I did the thing at the airport. You can do a night drop off. You can at Manchester Airport to avoid the chaos. Which I've got to say, there was no chaos. The airports were fine for when I went through. Anyway, so I did that. So. I obviously you're in Bluetooth range, so the device knows you're here, and then when you leave Bluetooth range, you get a notification comes up saying you've been disconnected from your device, which is as the bag trundled off down the conveyor belt, that was fair enough. It disconnected. And when I use Tile and things like that, they always show you where you were when you disconnected. But unlike Tile with these, it seems other Samsung devices update them. I think Apple does this, doesn't it? But anyway, so I can actually track my bag trundling around Manchester Airport, and even when I was on holiday, I could see where the bag was in the Italian airport through other people's phones. So it gave me that notification. And of course, as I was waiting for the bag to come through, it popped up saying your bag's been found in Bluetooth range, and there it was. The bag came through. So I didn't lose my bags, but had it gone, the suitcase had gone to to another country, I think theoretically, they should just still be able to track it with this. How you'd actually explain to someone where it is to get it back, I'm not quite sure, but it would work. So the actual tech works fine. I think the 50 odd quid though for a pair, which I think is quite expensive, and like I said, it won't work with my Surface. So they're still paired up to my Samsung Galaxy. But if you really got some valuable stuff and you're worried about it going missing, then they are quite good. The fact that other Samsung phones update it is quite good as well. So like I said, I've not experienced the Apple ones. I think they work the same way. But yeah, I don't know. Rich, have you tried the Apple ones with your phone?
Not at all, no.
Well, anyway, so if you go on a holiday this summer and you've got a Samsung phone, then it might be worth having a look at it. They're only small. You can fit it in your wallet as well. So if you can get the separation alert. So if your wallet gets pinched or something, you could track it down perhaps. But yeah, if you've got a valuable item like camera or something like that, you can attach it to it, and at least through the other Samsung devices you can track it around. But I thought it was quite interesting tracking it around the airport. As I was at home, I could see where it'd been dumped overnight or whatever. But yeah, so that's I did a little video of that as well, so you can check out that. But yeah, it's been a while since I tried those, so they're quite good, those. Like I said, at Manchester Airport, you got to give it to them. I was through from parking through to having my breakfast in 50 minutes. Through security and everything else. So you hear the horror stories, but I guess it depends on when, where. But it was a Tuesday morning I travelled, and no problems coming back either. In fact, the only problem I did have at the Manchester side was that the O2 cell tower was overloaded, so that I really struggled to get data when I arrived back in Manchester. No problems anywhere else in any of the countries or anything else. But yeah, so the age-old problem with O2 cell towers. But apart from that, yeah, I had no issues. So the other tech thing I did dig out my Kindle, my original Kindle. Well, I don't know if it's an original one. I think we didn't get them in the UK, did we? But I've got a very old Kindle, the one with the keyboard on.
Yep.
And I thought I'll take it with me. Why not? And actually, it still works. Still supported by Amazon. I'm guessing it's 10 years old. Must be. Yeah, and I downloaded books, and that worked fine as well. So.
No, I've been busy gifting Kindles around the world. I think my first one is probably on an aeroplane going between Iceland and Heathrow. My second one, I think, is in a hotel somewhere near Amsterdam. I'm on the third one now.
Now, if you put one of these tags on it, you could have found where it was.
You know what? That's what I should have done.
Yeah.
Well, right now, I think I'd probably attach those tags to the small child. That's oh, look, earrings. Here you go.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can make them ring as well, so you can ring your small child when you want them to come return to you.
That's not at all controlling.
No.
Yeah, that's the thing with Kindles, isn't it? I think seat pockets of plane seems to be a favourite place to leave them. I think.
Yeah, exactly. I've lost books. You see, initially I used to lose books, and now I've lost Kindles. It just and it only occurs to me much. I think, oh heck, or words to that effect. I think that's where, and I know exactly where it is. It's in the front pocket. I found the airline, and I said, no, sorry, it's gone. So someone has inherited a free Kindle. So congratulations, person.
Yeah. Yeah. I quite enjoyed using my Kindle, and yeah, so I was quite pleased.
Do we know why Kindle books tend to always be so expensive though? Because I've never worked out why some books and Kindles, the ebook is vastly more expensive than a physical book. I mean, why is that?
Because there's no discounting. And basically, that's true. I mean, the physical books get discounted.
I was hoping for a technical reason as I mean,
it's obviously cheaper to make and just distribute them, but it's all down to the fact that paper books get discounted in other outlets. So obviously, Amazon follows the same pattern with discounting because they always want to be cheaper, but they don't have to discount the Kindle books because they're the only people making them.
Yeah, I always thought it was a bit, surely it would be cheaper because, there's no printing and packaging and postage and everything else. And yeah, it doesn't work out like that.
It's a rip-off in lots of ways, but yeah, I mean, it does mean the authors get a bit more money, which is not a bad thing. But the the way to, obviously the way to go for Kindle books if you read a lot is the Kindle lending library. That's actually a far more cost-effective way of doing it.
Or alternatively, you could go to your local library.
You could indeed go to your local library as well, because they will rent you a Kindle book, or in fact an ebook of some sort. If your local library is part of the scheme, because not all of them are, but the ones which are good. My mum does this and borrows books from her local library for her Kindle equivalent.
Oh, yeah, I haven't thought of doing that. Oh, it's really, I always it's one of those things. I think I'm every New Year's resolution is always I'm going to browse the internet at night less and read more books in the evening more. I think every year I said this year I'm not going to go on forums and Reddit at the evening. I'm going to read books, but it doesn't quite work out like that. But on a holiday, you kind of force myself to not force, but it's and sitting on the by a pool is much more conducive with the Kindle reading a book than it is going on the laptop. So I didn't take my laptop. I took my Surface laptop. I didn't take the Surface Studio. But I didn't take the laptop to the pool. I want to stress that I was disconnected for the week.
I mean, I must admit. I mean, I have started after about 8 p.m. just putting the phone and the devices just elsewhere, because otherwise, I mean, it's too easy to start doom scrolling, and you just burn through so much time.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, crikey. I lost an hour there looking at rubbish.
Actually, to be honest, for the last, I'd say 2 years at least, I don't tend to, after 9 o'clock the laptop lid shuts always now, and especially if I want to watch something. If you watch a decent series, I can multitask when something's you're not that interesting, or doesn't require.
You should have said that, and then the book opens, and then the Netflix goes on.
No, Netflix goes on. Yeah, that's what it is. But I find that more. Yeah, I think especially if I find a good show that you really enjoy, then shut the laptop lid, because I think there's nothing. I watch my sons watching supposedly shows that they really they're really into and love, and he's there with his phone like that. But I think you've missed half of it. They could. You don't need 60 frames per second. You need like one every 2 or 3 minutes, because that's whenever he looks up. So.
Well, exactly, and that's one of the joys of home Wi-Fi segmentation. Good for security, and also good for switching on bits and pieces when one's offspring is watching too much phone stuff. It's like, oh, sorry, your Wi-Fi gone down. Oh dear. Well, I'll phone the phone company in the morning.
Yeah.
Not that I've ever done that, you understand, but
of course, yeah. Yeah, well, we did. I think I probably talked about it on the show. We used to have 2 separate networks. Not so bad when the 20 is not something you need to police as quite as much. It's more irritating than anything else. But I mean, I'm not missing it there.
I mean, I think these days, we're going to have to all get much more used to network segmentation and having different networks, because we all have on a serious note, we all have IoT devices, all the things on networks. And of course, we're getting the situation now with malware and stuff and attacks where you may have devices on your network which are no longer supported or being patched, and so you kind of want to keep those away from valuable or important stuff. So I don't know how we can make that more consumer friendly. The concept of saying, okay, your Alexa device is going to go to the A word, we're going to go over here, and your Hive cameras, which are going to soon be turned off, are going to go over there. How we actually make that friendly for consumers and routers, because right now users are used to plug in the router and away it works, whereas you kind of say, well, actually, you've got to start thinking about what's going on where, bearing in mind that different things will be patched to different levels. It's going to be quite a scary world, really. I've got very serious, haven't I?
I think I've got 3 actual access, so 3 Wi-Fi networks. One with the IoT stuff on, one for the sort of the everything else Wi-Fi, and then one for me, which is in the office up here. But then you get some. So I had that segmentation. I've got all the cameras and everything on one network. But then you've got some things like Sonos, which don't like being on a different network. So you even though they're reachable, through a IP range, I think it's the broadcast, isn't it? So if you've got the Sonos app on your phone, it has to be on the same subnet as the Sonos. Whereas I would prefer to have the Sonos and everything like you said, IoT on one. Even just one subnet range with one, one Wi-Fi, not actually necessarily totally isolated, but anyway, it doesn't work on that. So some things still yeah. Then, but you're right though. It's not very consumer friendly to split your network like that. It just isn't it? It's even for enterprises, it's still complicated. So for your home ones, it's not too bad for me. I've got sort of 3 Wi-Fi keys. One that doesn't get given out. One for IoT, one for everything else, and then I've got a guest one as well on the Netgear. That if somebody asks for the Wi-Fi, I always give them the guest rather than
good idea.
the you're giving out your main key. But yeah, you're right. It's a bit of an issue. It's funny you mentioned that Hive as well. I know you talked about Hive dropping the cameras. Their kits. I have a Hive camera because I know you were asking whether I actually had one. I do have a Hive camera, but it was one I got sent to review, and I hadn't had it plugged in. And as I was going away, I thought I'm going to plug some more of these cameras in to give me a bit more visibility of what's going on in the house while I'm away. And I spent about 3 hours trying to get the Hive camera to come back on the network and gave up in the end. So I thought when I was listening to you talk about it, I thought, oh, they killed it like last week. But I think you said 2 years off or something like that.
Yeah, it's going to go on. I think till 2023 is when the service gets killed.
Yeah, but I couldn't get mine to work at all.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, hopefully that's just coincidence.
Yeah, the Arlo cameras and the Blink cameras work well for me, so they were great.
I think as I said last week, I've still got 2 Blink cameras, which the batteries are now probably 4 or 5 years old, and they're still working, which I just find astonishing. Really, how they've coded, the firmware there just sips power. It really does. Yeah,
they're very good. That and the SwitchBot are the best things I've got IoT wise for battery. They work really well. I actually changed the battery in my Blink, which is in the back garden, for the first time I think since I've got it. So about 2 years off. But I thought I'd change it before I go on holiday. So, but yeah, it even tells you alert to say there's there's extra activity that it doesn't expect, because I have my camera set so that it only active at night and things like that. But some people came around to to water my tomatoes for me, which was very kind of them, and he's setting my camera off, of course. So I could see my sister was in the garden watering my tomatoes, and
at least you knew it was happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about the the smart home cameras and all things like that. Years ago, when you used to go away on holiday, you weren't sure what you were coming back to, but of course now everything is motion sensors, and you can just look on your phone at what's going on in your house. So I think that's quite good, and you get notifications for alarms and that kind of thing. So it gives you that bit of peace of mind when you're away. So that's quite a good use case for those cameras, if of course your provider supports them.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it's well, you were right. You were talking about last week. You buy these things and you don't know how long you're going to get from them. You could buy 2 years, a year, 3 years, 10 years. You don't know, do you? It's just at the whim of someone's business model changing, and then they could go. So. And I don't see a real easy solution for it, because the open source ones or roll your own solutions, it's hard, isn't it, for everyday consumers to be able to do that. If you buy a doorbell camera or something like that, you want something that's simple, normal consumers.
Well, exactly. I mean, as Garry said last week, that there are standards out there which can be adopted, but one of the challenges is as you say, making something that is as consumer friendly as everything else, where it is where it is just plug and go with no thought really required at all. And I think that is the challenge, because it's you buy these things that are very proprietary and you assume they're going to last forever, and they don't. So
no.
Yeah, one of those things. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, my smart home stuff worked out really well. I was quite pleased with that while I was away. I've seen that Microsoft are back to their tricks with breaking things in the last couple of weeks as well. I even saw today that one of the updates breaks printing.
It's not been a good few weeks for Microsoft. Yes, this is the patch Tuesday of last week, which was previewed I think a few weeks before, and yeah, it's broken a few things. So it kind of started with the Windows 11 patch Tuesday, where there were problems with the Windows Start menu not starting, which was a bit awkward. and Microsoft kind of announced that, yep, okay, there are problems with the start menu for some Windows 11 users, and we're gonna roll that particular part of the patch back. And this, I think, was all in KB 5015814, which you would have got automatically if you're Windows 11 user on the 12th of July. But it's also in the preview before as well, so that's a bit awkward, because of course the preview had a fix for Wi-Fi hotspots, which is kind of which was needed, but it broke something else. And then unfortunately Windows 10 has also fallen victim to the same curse, in that the same curse as in the curse of patches not working properly. And I think this is it's almost like a recurrence. This is one where again, if you've installed the preview or you've installed the patch, which came out again, I think it'll be a couple of weeks ago when this goes out, what can happen is your printer can stop working. And if you look, you'll find that you've got a second printer which you need to switch your app to use.
Right.
And I believe the problem around there is to do with USB port assignments. So something happens in the update that messes with USB port assignments. So it's going to be a plugged-in USB-B printer, and for some users, not all users, but a substantial amount, enough for Microsoft to list this as a known issue. You'll suddenly find yourself unable to print, and if you're not able to sort of switch to the different printer, the other options are to try and reinstall the print driver. If that fails, then you're pretty much going to have to uninstall the patch, which is really quite unfortunate, because there are important security things in that patch. You never really want to uninstall these patches because there's stuff in there which you actually really want to be to be a patching system. But obviously, if you need to print, you can't print, then so be it. But it's it's difficult because it's kind of this is certainly the printer thing is kind of basic stuff. You're not quite sure how it's got through really. It's a bit unfortunate. I know Windows is a miracle in that it's a miracle it even works at all, considering all the various varieties of systems out there. But again, it's when these things happen, I think with the Windows 11, the known issue rollback stuff is good because it means they as soon as they start getting signals to say a thing's broken, they can pull that bit back without having to uninstall everything else. But the printer thing, it looks like you do have to actually get rid of the update if everything else fails. Microsoft can't pull that back with the same tech, which is, I think, unfortunate. So, it makes me worry again about the quality. And I think we mentioned last week about the changing, the rumored changing guidance and what that might mean for quality, which is, I think, a good thing. And I was kind of hoping we'd see less of these things. The other slight problem with the Windows 10 stuff, and I've not really heard from Microsoft how this will work, is they said they're going to investigate it and probably issue a solution. The problem with it is that was the last patch Tuesday for certain versions of Windows 10. So are they going to keep fixing those Windows 10? I think also Windows Server 20H2 as well goes out of support, I think in August. So are they going to issue another one? How's that going to work? So it's all a bit of a concern really. But again, ultimately for me, it's just a quality thing. I would prefer these things. It seems like a silly thing that this has happened, and I don't understand how this got through. Maybe you guys can shed some light on how this stuff happens.
My guess is there's not a huge amount of Windows 10 testing going on.
No. Say it's not true.
Because most insiders are going to be testing 11, but USB printing is the kind of thing that perhaps, especially printing is a strange thing, isn't it? Because not certain demographics don't print at all, and some do. And my guess is that lots of people that do insider type testing probably don't do lots of printing, and the people that do printing are maybe the older users that are set in their ways, and the ones that need it, and the ones that are least likely to be able to fix it.
Yeah, I'd say things like printing it. I've heard a lot from people in retail and warehousing who basically always have a label printer attached to their PC and it just works, and so suddenly it just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it's a big issue then.
So for them, it has been a major problem. As I say, most normal users, and you're quite right. Insiders probably don't even print because they're probably, if they haven't got a printer, it's on Wi-Fi. or they don't use them at all. I mean, I've got a printer here which I maybe print out 3 things a year. So
yeah, I mean, I bid my printer because I had a HP one that I very rarely needed to print, and the only time I did try and print, it never worked because it would take half an hour, to get. In fact, the only time I ever used it was when the lads were at school and they would go at 8 o'clock in the morning, just as I was about to leave. Say, I need to print this document out for school today, and it's oh god, none of it works, And so my printer got skipped in the end. But if in business, label printers. If all our label printers went to, I work for a logistics company, so that is a big issue. So that's another reason why you don't just you don't let Windows Update go out on Patch Tuesday automatically without doing a bit testing inside.
Otherwise, you're no longer in the job you were in.
Yeah,
yes, exactly. Yes. It's time to reconsider your career path.
Yeah, I mean, I know of people that not at our place because we have we use a WUS server, but I know of people that do similar jobs who have the servers do automatic updates, and yes, in theory, the sooner you get the updates, the better for security. But if you don't test them, you're relying on Microsoft to test them, and you're relying on the community finding out the issues. And I've heard a few horror stories of rolling back updates and things like that. So
true. Although again, of course, it's a balancing act, because if you don't put the updates on, then you could be exposed. And
it's a real balancing act.
Yeah. What a fun time to be an IT admin, eh?
Yeah. It's easier on client side because servers is where it gets really it gets.
I mean,
nervous.
It could be worse. You could be trying to support some Oculus/Meta Quest headsets at the moment, and looking at the price increases there. Have you seen those today?
No.
Well, this is obviously breaking news in many ways. I was just seeing some friends of mine who work in the industry said, "Are you aware of this?" And it appears that Meta, who are very keen that we should all use the metaverse and VR is the way forward and stuff, are upping the prices, or I quote, adjusting the prices on the Quest 2 headsets. They're not being cut, even though the hardware is 2 years old now, I think, maybe older. They're being raised by $100.
Wow.
I know we've got issues with I suspect they've always been sold at a loss anyway, and we've issues with components, but goodness me, that's a big hike, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, on old kit, you can imagine that if the new model comes out and it's $100 more, that happens quite a lot, doesn't it? But yeah, to have just an increase on the current model that you said it's 2 years old, which is quite a long time in this kind of environment.
Well, it is. Although we'll get on to Surface Duo in a minute, but yes, it is. It is quite old. So I was very surprised to see, because obviously, as you know, I'm a big fan of the VR headset and the Quest 2 in particular. But it is starting to feel a bit old now, and so I would have expected it to actually have been cut in price, and their new one appear at that price point, not them increase the price point with no replacement. There, it seems almost a perverse thing to do. So. I just found it quite.
And that would suggest then there's no new model on the way either.
Yeah, it's particularly in light of what Sony doing with the PlayStation 5. It's a strange move, and I can't see how it's going to increase the adoption that Facebook/Meta really need to happen if they're going to move on. It just seems to a very strange thing to do, driven purely by I'm guessing pressures on pricing and the fact the margins aren't what they were.
And what competition is there now, though? Because Microsoft kind of given up with the mixed reality headsets.
The Quest is in a very difficult position, I guess, because certainly headsets for business are now streets ahead in terms of quality, but they're very, very expensive. As I said, I looked at some during the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and they were incredibly impressive, but again, incredibly expensive. But designed for business trading purposes, where perhaps the price tag isn't quite so important. I guess the closest thing would be the new PlayStation VR thing, the VR2, which again is looking to be substantially more powerful than what the Quest 2 is doing, although no pricing yet as far as I'm aware, unless you two know better. I've not seen any pricing for it yet.
Yeah.
Just the fact that it looks very, very impressive. Certainly a big step up from the original PlayStation VR, which is really quite clunky now.
Yeah, I did actually play the new Formula 1 game on the weekend on the Oculus Quest. I went to a friend's house, and I was really impressed with that. It worked really well, actually. I was surprised how well.
Was that one that was attached by cable, or?
Yes.
Yeah, because of course, if you are, if one can attach one's headset to a PC, then the visuals improve dramatically. Because of course, the Quest 2, when disconnected, is little more than a 2 or 3 year old mobile phone with a screen on the front.
This was on with the cable. Hardware. Yeah.
Whereas once you cable up, you can use the power of your PC, which is makes for a much better experience for sure. I mean, but equally, I mean, if you're attached to a PC and you want to spend a bit more money, you can get some just stunning headsets. And I think Varjet do some incredible stuff, which, while expensive, aren't that expensive compared to the improvement you get in terms of just the resolution of the screen. So, yeah, it's a bit odd to see these price rises. I mean, obviously this comes on top of the Amazon Prime price increase as well.
Yeah,
an
extra £1 a month, isn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, £1 a month, or was it £20 a year? It's some huge amount of money. Which again,
it's a big percentile increase. Inflationary pressures, as they call it. But
it's the first one for a while. I mean, I don't think they've done one for a very long time, but it is a big old jump. But it seems everyone's putting up prices. I mean, Slack increased its prices too in the last week, which is came as a surprise.
Netflix is always putting theirs up.
Well, Netflix is. I mean, and this is one of the things I wonder if we're going to see in the next couple of years, people start to move away from streamers because I still remember the chat you had with Ed Bott regarding home server and things many years ago, where he was quite correctly predicting that streamers would overhaul the idea of ripping videos to discs and things. But now, to get what you want, you have to have so many subscriptions.
That's the problem.
There's Disney Plus, there's Netflix, there's Amazon Prime, there's Apple TV, and there's Hulu. If you want to watch Star Trek, you have to get Paramount Plus. That all mounts up really quickly.
It does,
And whereas we remember the time when you'd have your home server, your media center, and you'd buy your Blu-ray once, and that'd be that. So I do wonder if maybe we might see people start to rethink their streaming subscriptions, because I mean, Sky obviously did very well out of people accepting a very large monthly payment. But I think with the amount of streaming options you have now, it's just getting very expensive.
It is, yeah, and it's always interesting to watch. Like to look at my son's generation, they're the 20s, early 20s. That if you said you can only have one of the subscriptions, because we kind of between them, we're one of the lads has got Amazon, we pay for Netflix, the other one pays for Disney. We're kind of doing it all between us. But I think if you said you only have one, they would all pick Disney now.
Yeah.
Whereas as adult, parents, we don't really use the Disney, but there is some more stuff coming on there now. So, yeah, it's interesting how Netflix will cope with that.
I mean, Disney is. I mean, if I'm honest, I think it's going to be personal preference, but I think Netflix will probably be the first one that we cancel now, because Disney Plus has got all the Marvel stuff on there, which the kid likes, and it is really improving fast. Amazon Prime, well, we like to get things delivered, so the TV comes as just as So I think Amazon's got quite a canny business model there. So yeah, I think Netflix might be the ones that start to struggle as they just lose content, because if they've lost all the Disney, well, they're going to lose all the Disney content. They're losing the other content to Paramount. So yeah, and the homegrown content, is it going to be enough? This is obviously getting into consumer video now, but I do wonder if it will be enough.
I think the other one that's going to struggle is Now TV, the Sky, because they've lost a huge amount of content to Disney. A lot of this, there's certainly a lot of TV series that were very much their bread and butter on the entertainment pack and have disappeared. So yeah, I mean that's an interesting one as well. I think that there's a lot of challenges. I mean, and Disney have got the money to acquire everything really, haven't they? If they wanted to.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and it's the Disney Plus offering does seem to have an awful lot of stuff there, which we watch. So, but I mean, I'm kind of starting to think again. Well, perhaps I should just get a Blu-ray of the things that I want, and then we'll just watch it via whatever Plex or Media Center is. I mean, obviously Media Center is no more unless it's open source. Perhaps open source. Can but hope.
One day.
Or well, it's yet again one of those things. You think Microsoft were just so far ahead of the curve with that, because it's like it worked. I mean, home server Media Center worked really well. I mean, really well, and extenders worked really well. And I was very sad when that went away. I know I go on about it a lot, but looking back, you think that worked particularly well. You had My Movies on that, and it all just worked superbly. So
all really My Movies.
Yeah. Well, I've not really had that level of reliability since, if I'm honest. Streaming is okay, but the problem with streaming is you need a constant internet connection, and it needs to be good, and you're paying every month for it, and it's starting to get expensive, especially with the way inflation is going, and the other expenses in the household. You think, well, what can we cut? And you know what? One of those is going to have to go.
Cut, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a bit grim, isn't it? Sorry about that.
Yeah.
That said, though, speaking of cut pricings, did you see? I think it was on Windows Central. They came across a cancelled Surface Duo.
Yeah, with plastic back on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that I thought was interesting. I thought that would be good actually, because the current Surface Duo is expensive. It looks like we're not going to see the 3 until next year now, that's not good. I mean, that's in the mobile phone world. That's not good to go 2 years, because I mean the Duo 2 is already starting to look a bit old. But people,
I was thinking that, but then I was using that Galaxy Note while I was on holiday. It's perfectly fine. It's a 3-year-old device now, isn't it? That the pictures, camera, everything were great. There was really no need to upgrade it. It's fast. Everything works on it. It had plenty of storage. And
what, on the Galaxy or the Duo?
The Galaxy, because I swapped SIMs and I'd forgotten how nice a phone it was.
Oh yeah, I mean, crikey. I mean, it's
a 3-year-old phone.
I mean, I was quite happily using an iPhone XS for until I broke it. And that was fine. Then I broke it.
And the same with the Duo. If a Duo 3 came out, I wouldn't get a Duo 3 as much as I love one, because the Duo 2 works perfectly well. It's working. I mean, the Duo 1 had issues, so that needed to be upgraded. Whereas I can't. A better camera or longer battery life, I don't know. It's not going to make a huge amount of difference. So you need to keep that. I need to keep the device to monetize it for longer now. So I'm quite happy to have a longer period of having the flagship phone.
I guess my difficulty with it is looking at new customers who are looking at a new phone, a new flagship phone, and all you have to do is just look at specs, and the Duo 2 doesn't stand up anymore as a flagship phone.
Yeah, I wonder whether we'll see. I guess we probably won't, but I wonder whether we'll see with the cost, with chip shortages, high inflation, cost of living, and everything else, whether phone manufacturers might go back to keeping their flagships for 18 months, 2 years. But I suppose the business pressures mean that they don't do that, isn't it? The pressure to sell. I mean, there's another Samsung event coming up, isn't there? I think it's next week or the week after.
All the folding devices are due to be launched. Fold and flip. It's interesting actually, because when they launched the fold and the flip, I think they really thought that the fold was going to be the big seller, but the actual really big seller has been the flip.
Yeah, the flip's done very well.
Really, really well.
Well, it's such a convenient form factor. I mean, that looks really well. The flip, it's very small flips. It's great. I mean, it reminds me of phones of yesteryear, really.
Yeah, it does, and shows that there's still a market for a small form factor, but expandable. I've always thought. I mean, I saw a prototype of this years and years ago from a British manufacturer, which is no longer in production, where they actually had a scroll. So they basically had two, like a proper Egyptian type hieroglyphics type scroll with two bits on either side, and you just pulled it out, and it was an LCD, it was an E type screen, and you just expanded it how far you wanted it to work on for that bit of work, and it sort of clipped. It solidified as you got it in the right position, and then you could. And it had limited touchability, and it was very low resolution. So obviously it wasn't practical solution. But in terms of concept, that always struck me as a really good concept, because you could have all the electronics in these handholding thing bits at the side, and then just a flexible screen in between them, and with some sort of tensioning mechanism. Which you can do that with heat sensitive plastics and all sorts of things. Electric. There's loads of ways of doing a tensioning approach. Yeah, I just thought that because we really don't want massive things to carry around, but there are times when you really want to see something wide, big, and make it bigger.
Yeah, definitely. Although speaking of phones, did you? I guess you're both aware that the just launching some gears here, that the Dell Mobile Connect service is
they're pulling that. Yeah,
I mean, obviously it's been announced months in advance. It's now upon us. It's going to end, I think, next week, isn't it? For most of the world, I think the US ends in November.
Yeah, and it was something that was touted as, because I like your phone. With it, as an Android user, it does everything.
I'm glad you like my phone. My phone's great.
Yeah. It's not called your phone actually anymore, is it? I should correct that. It's now called. Isn't it called My Phone, or they keep changing the name of it? Phone Link is now called.
Phone Link, yeah.
I like Phone Link.
I mean, I'm not too sure how focused Microsoft is on that anymore, if I'm honest. We'll see.
But Phone Link doesn't work very well with iOS devices, but I think the Dell Connect actually worked quite well with that, didn't it? But isn't the developers behind it purchased by Intel?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, so the company that developed that for Dell, and I've forgotten the name of them at the top of my head, but they were purchased by Intel. So that technology actually belongs to Intel now. So whether there was a business decision that, and maybe we'll see that show up in Intel devices in the future, I don't know, but or maybe they just decided, it's not worth the investment in it. But that's the tech is owned by Intel now, so the company is owned by Intel.
Okay, because it's certainly been. I was very impressed when I used the Dell Mobile Connect. It just seemed to work really well, whereas it seemed to always have the stuff which eventually came to your phone or phone companion or whatever they're calling it now. It came to that later, and even then, it's very much geared towards Samsung phones, whereas as you say, the Mobile Connect, which I know was designed for Dell and Alienware PCs, seemed to work better with with a wider variety of phones.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think it's a shame that it's going, but whether it's a commercial decision because of the Intel purchase, or whether they're just it doesn't sell Dell laptops, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, at the end of that's what it's for, isn't it? To sell the laptops. Did you see? We talked about updates before. Did you see the new Windows 11 build had the taskbar improvement across the bottom for when you fill all your apps up? This in the dev build last week, because I just caught up on builds. I didn't miss too many, I don't think. But 25163 has the overflow now.
Oh, the overflow thing. Yes, the overflow thing. Yes, I saw that. Yes, yeah, cool, nice. Interesting.
I was actually, when I was going to do the video, I saw that. I thought, that's a good idea. The 3 dots are a good idea. That, especially when I use it on the Surface Go in portrait. It's a narrow screen then, so it's always overflow. I thought, I don't like that 2-row thing that you get. And then I thought, hang on a minute, where's the 2-row thing? That's Windows 10, isn't it? Where you get the 2 rows with the little arrow to go into your Windows 11 just doesn't show them.
No,
and I didn't realise that.
Yeah, it does.
It's just not things. Just you've had enough. You've got enough open. You don't need any more on your plate.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's too much. You're working too hard.
I'm supposed to be simple. You're not supposed to have more than a few icons here. You've got loads of icons. I'm sorry, you're working too hard. That's it. No more.
I won't show you
wider screen.
So I was surprised that actually. I actually thought that the overflow was the way that Windows 10 does it. But it's not. It just doesn't overflow. Anyway, so I like the 3 dots. I think that works better. So that was in the new build. But with who knows when we'll get to see these. The way that they're doing these updates now, that could be in the 22H2 release that comes out for release preview. They could shift it across there. It might never show, or it might be in the major update that ships in 3 years, or it might be in the feature update next year. We've no idea anymore.
Exactly, we have no idea when it's going to count, because it's in dev channel. If it makes it through to beta, then there's a good chance it might turn up. But I I doubt it'll be part of 22H2. It'll probably be a feature update that comes later on.
Yeah, because I noticed the nearby share and OneDrive sharing was in the dev build, and it was also in the beta.
Yep.
In fact, I think it came to the beta before dev, isn't it?
It's very confusing what's going on right now, which is
Yeah.
also worrying me slightly because I'm just kind of getting a bit of deja vu. It's like it all seems very confused now. What's happening when and where things are, and it just seems okay.
I mean, it used to be.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it was fairly clear, wasn't it? You know, the dev channel got things first. If it worked in the dev channel, it got shifted to beta channel. It worked in there, then it got to release preview, and then it worked in there, it goes to release. But now they seem to be hitting beta and dev at the same time, or one doesn't hit the other at all, but it still ends up in production. And yeah, it's a bit confusing. For instance, it's not that clear path like it used to be. I mean, I know that they specified that the dev channel isn't tied to any specific reason. I can understand that, but then something like the OneDrive share, the nearby share update, you would at least expect it for a week in dev before it gets to beta, but that doesn't seem to be the case now. They must have some internal telemetry that they use for quality measures to decide when it shifts due to those channels. But
sweet summer child. Some internal telemetry for quality measures. Oh goodness me, no. I think basically there's some dice that they throw. Say, what should you do? Go on, then let's ship it, and it's done.
Yeah, and then of course you've got the A/B testing.
Oh no, that's I mean that's
and there's two entirely separate builds in beta at the moment, isn't there, as well? You know, the same builds with a different build number.
But you can shift, can't you? You aren't limited to being in one. If you want to, you can move across, which is fair enough. Which I think with A/B testing, I've always thought it's very unfair on the siders who sign up to test stuff and they find themselves in a group where they can't test stuff, because the reason you're insider is you're testing stuff. So. Yeah. You can't say actually you're not going to get this new stuff. You can just make sure it works if new stuff isn't in it. Well, it's a bit rubbish, isn't it? Really, a bit unfair. Anyway,
but but they're still doing the A/B on dev, but then like you said on the beta. So it's just like a one build number different, isn't it, between the two? And if you're on the lower one, you can shift to the higher one. You can't go the other way.
It's to say it's feeling a bit messy at the moment. It's feeling a bit sort of unstructured and a bit. I can see what they're doing, but it's almost like they're kind of stretching the insiders too far. So you've got too many different things happening at once here, and only a finite pool of insiders, all of whom really want to be on the dev channel and get new stuff, and maybe some administrators who want to look at beta and release preview so they can test it before it goes to production. But I just feel they're kind of spreading their insiders too thinly now with all the various options and ways of doing things. But I'm sure they know what they're doing, and we won't see a repeat of what happened in 2018.
No, maybe not. No, that's still I still wince at that one. But yeah, I mean, I've ended up with. I've got a device on beta, I've got a device on dev, and I've got virtual machines on release preview. Real machines on production, but you kind of these builds drop, and then you see a Windows 10 one, and you think, God, as an insider, you want to test them all, but you can't now. You've got to kind of pick what you can cope with.
Yeah.
But we still don't know any official dates on when 22H2 is going to be released yet. I'm guessing the end of August for the sign off, and maybe September, October for the. I guess it's beginning of October.
It's got to be pretty close. I read somewhere someone pinged up to say, "Hey, guess what? It's exactly 10 years today that Windows 8 was signed off for its October release." So I'm guessing that's probably the final build is out there at the moment, and it'll turn up, pretty soon. August. I don't know. Let's see what events we've got coming up. We've got is it Ignite fairly soon? We've had the inappropriately named Inspire. So I think we must have Ignite. That must be. Is that in September time? October time?
I don't think they'll tie it to any event. It'll just here it is.
I don't know.
Postal drop and here it is.
I just kind of think they'll probably. I would hope they'd do it around then. So I'm thinking I'm gonna bet 22H2 will drop at some point in September.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fairly reasonable.
That's my prediction.
Yeah, I think it'll go to release preview, the final version of release preview, the end of August, and ship September,
October.
Yeah, I
First
think it's
October,
yeah.
ooh,
But I
okay.
don't. It won't be an event. It'll just be a blog
it's-
post.
I mean, I think it's going to either be a blog post, or it will be just one more session at Ignite, simply because there isn't enough in it to justify an event. It's
Yeah.
which is great. It's going to be a quiet thing. It's going to just come out, and it's just that's it. Because there's not, it's not a massive, huge release, which is, I think, correct. Really, it's not going to feel big. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happened under the hood. Don't get me wrong, but it's not, the big event that we had last year with when Windows 11 arrived, where it was just, wow, this is very different. It's going to be much quieter, much more subdued. It will just happen, and then they'll gradually roll it out.
And we're going to get tabs in File Explorer.
Tabs in File Explorer.
They're
Do you
in
think so?
beta.
They're in the beta. They're not released preview, are they? Yeah, I
No.
mean, we might do. It's getting a bit tight now if they are.
Hmm.
And that, for me, is one of the really great features in that release. I like those tabs and follows. They're really good. I wish they were consistent with Edge, but there we go. Consistency is not Microsoft's watchword in its interfaces. Yeah, I like them a lot.
My other prediction will be there's going to be quite a few upset people when they don't get this. Not normal consumers, but enthusiasts who've used the workarounds to get Windows 11 on a machine that's not supported, and the 22H2 won't get installed. You'll have to do the workaround again to get it installed. It won't get deployed automatically if you're on a unsupported device.
So do you reckon 22H2? So it will still be deployable, but the hammer won't come down yet, because the hammer's got to come down at some point, isn't it?
You won't. You'll have to deploy it through the media creation tool or one of those. You won't get it through Windows Update.
Okay, so so you reckon there'll still be ways around it?
Yes.
I mean, at some point, Microsoft are going to have to drop the hammer and say you will not be able to upgrade this. It's not going to work, because there are lots of workarounds they've even published themselves.
Yeah.
But at some point, they're going to have to say you can't upgrade it anymore because we have this hardware compatibility list, and you're making fun of it now.
Yeah.
Although,
I just think anything that's, if you weren't originally compatible, but you somehow got it on, I don't think you'll get 22H2 unless you do the same workaround.
I mean, I wonder if they'll wait until there's greater take of Windows 11, because it is, at the moment, I think those that can upgrade to it have upgraded to it. Enterprises obviously haven't. They're hanging back because no enterprise in its right mind would install it from day one. It'd be insane. But most enterprises are going to have to sort of roll it out with new hardware, I guess. I mean, I guess, Ian, you're at the sharp pointy end here. I mean, is that kind of what's happening in your company?
Yeah, say the Dell machines, they come with Windows 10. Then they started to come with Windows 10, and it gave the option to put 11 on. Now they're getting a bit more strong-handed with, yes, you can have Windows 10, I suppose, if you really must. Each time the emphasis changes and makes it harder to get that. So yeah, at some point, I guess they'll just ship without Windows 10 on at all. So that at that point, you really don't want to be backwards installing, physically downgrading it. So I'm not sure how long Dell will ship both, but I'm guessing they're not going to do it forever.
Well, no, and we've only got the theory. What's it? Is it 2024, 25 when Windows 10 stops? Perhaps I can't remember the exact year, but it's now. It does feel as though the clock's ticking, because obviously Windows 7 had 3 years of support after it, and that runs out in January. The extended security updates for Windows 7. So those 3 years do go by surprisingly quickly.
Yes, they do. Yeah. I think it's more that, I mean, under the core, Windows 11 isn't that much different. It's the end user bits that are sort of more worrying, and that that's what the bigger small companies can deal with that, but big enterprises with there's a lot of end user training to do with even just the change of the start menus, and people are used to where everything is, and I want it back like it used to be, and it's I remember doing well, actually I remember having this with Windows 8, but kind of didn't bother rolling out Windows 8, so because I think we kind of skipped that from as most enterprises did.
It was too different, but there is quite a difference. Whereas Windows 10, you can con yourself into thinking it's a bit like Windows 7, whereas there is a big jump to Windows 11. It is very different, which is But again, from an enterprise standpoint, if you're installing a new machine now, you're going to look and see, well, I'm going to expect this machine to last 3 years, maybe five years, based on depreciation and just hardware sunk costs. And so now I'm going to have to get a Windows 11 machine because I know Windows 10 is going to fall out of support within 3 years.
Yeah, and you're creating yourself a task then to have to upgrade it, and that's worse. Upgrading a deployed machine is way worse. So yeah, you've got to start looking at that now.
But of course, then you do end up, having a mixed estate. We've got some Windows 10, some Windows 11 machines. I wouldn't like to be an admin having to deal with that, especially with the current quality issues of patches, shall we say?
Yeah, so that brings us round to where we started the show this week. Then
we come full circle.
yeah, we have. Yeah. Oh, there's a show title. Remind me. I'll remember that one. Well, it was certainly interesting. It was certainly good to be back. Anyway, I've missed our weekly chats. My wife wasn't very keen on me talking about the latest Windows 11 updates and smart home IoT when we're on holiday for some reason. She didn't want to do the weekly call. I said, come on, Garry talks to me. Richard talks to me about it. So come on.
Exactly. We always called in from our holiday, so much to our spouse's delight, unbounded delight, I think. Yeah.
So it was very nice to be. It's the first proper holiday I've had for 3 years, I think, something like that. So, well, we all know about that. I mean, that's the same for everybody. I think nowadays, everyone's getting away. It's been good. Anyway. So where can we find you? Start with you, Richard. Where can we find you and your Lego and some of the other space stuff I saw on your Twitter feed today?
Oh yeah. You can find me mainly on Twitter at Richard_Speed. Currently celebrating Smeet.
Oh yes, that's what I saw. Yes, and Garry, where can we find you?
You can find me made on Twitter as well at Garry with 2 R's WMA, and I'll be finding out what Richard's talking about on Speak. I'm
afraid, Garry, it's about Skylab again. So
yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, and I'm at ISDixon on Twitter. So we'll be back next week. You can email me ian@slash.com, and we'll see you next week then.
Take care.
Cheerio.